Hey, this is Crane, and this is another rep review. This is Ashen, a PVT on Polypoid. So we go for our 23 Nexus build as usual, and you always do a good job at keeping your build pretty clean. But the first thing I noticed is in a couple of minutes you're going to be 35 probes to 40 SCVs. And versus a factory bunker expand like this, we really should be quite close in worker count. Um, and so I think there's two places where we lost probes. Number one, when we do the 23 Nexus 23 pylon, we should immediately start probes with the next 50 minerals. If we send our Dragoon at the appropriate time, we should see a command center or the lack thereof just before the first probe finishes. So if there is no command center, then we can cancel that probe right at the last second and start our Dragoon and be safe. So we missed that. It was considerably late on these two probes, which cut into it a little bit. The next time that we lost some is on 33. We add two pylons, and we cut probes for quite a long time here. So this part of the build is always uncomfortable because you have a lot of minerals to spend on different things. So versus a factory bunker expand, I like to have a short probe cut on 35 to add a pylon. And then I'll make 3 Dragoons and an Observer to go to 42 out of 42. When the pylon finishes, I'll make 1 round of probes to go to 44, make a pylon, and then I should be just right to constantly make probes and Dragoons. So that's one small thing, but I mean, the probe versus SCV count here is significantly off. It's 5 down right now. So that's a big deal. The next comment I have is regarding your third timing. So you smartly have a probe in the push path at the correct time, but we don't really use it. So at around 6:15, our opponent will have the 3 tanks and be able to push. And if no push comes, we want to be taking our Nexus. So at 6:15, we should be dropping our Nexus versus a Terran who does not push, which means we don't make these 3 Dragoons. We want to take that Nexus off of 7 Dragoons. You make 10 here, which I think is fine, but just note that you are losing about 30 seconds of time on this Nexus that we didn't need. These extra 3 Dragoons, you don't need them to hold a push, so you just make the Nexus and then make your 8th, 9th, and 10th Dragoon. So not huge, but it does impact your max out timing by a good margin. Okay, the next point is that we lose our Observer, which the obvious answer is don't lose your Observer, but it happens. So in that case, I like that you are adding gateways instead of taking a 4th base. But I feel like if you do that, there's 2 options that Terran can be doing behind the wall of turrets. They could be adding a ton of factories before a command center, in which case we need these gateways and we need to be using them in order to survive. Or they could be going command center first, in which case we don't want these gateways at all, we want a 4th. But if they go for command center like this, we need to use our gateways to delay it as long as possible. So what I'd like to see in this situation is you to be actively using these gateways and pumping out units and even getting a shuttle for zealot bombs, and then just blocking off this 3rd for as long as we possibly can. In this situation where he gets to have his tech and his command center on time, we are behind in tech because we made these gateways, and we're also behind in eco because this 4th is so delayed. So we really need to delay this 3rd if we can. The next point is that we have a considerable supply lead for quite a long time because we took this 4th for so late. I mean, if we're sitting on 3 bases, we're going to be pumping units for much, much longer than if we took a very fast fourth and fifth. So our max out is much faster than our opponent, but we don't do anything with it. I'd really like to see when you have this type of supply lead to really jam in with your army and try to delay or destroy bases. If we're going to be this passive, we really should be taking our bases faster and adding on gateways faster than you did. So need to either be more aggressive, or if we're going to be passive, be more greedy. The last point is with this 18-minute engagement. So my first comment is we only have 8 Dragoons. We normally want to be around 20. Dragoons have a lot more staying power, and they're better at dealing with mines and vultures, obviously, than Zealots. So I'd like to see this count to be just around 20. The way I do it is I have 10 Dragoons, 1 Observer, and 1 Arbiter in 2 control groups, and that guarantees that I have exactly 20 Dragoons. But you do clean up this army very easily because you have really good stasis. But when you see this army cleaned up this easily, in this game you think, he's weak. I destroyed this army and have a ton of units left. Let's go do some economic damage. But in reality, what happened is we cleaned this up easily because we had good stasis, but also because there were so many units at home defending this Terran player. So he had a ton of supply back defending, which means, yeah, we cleaned up this army really well. We have a lot left, but we can't do anything with it because every base is well defended. So what I would like to see is, instead of going, I won the fight, let's go, you won this handily, so let's wait for the stasis to run out. We can clean up these tanks with minimal losses because we have so many army units. And then you have 27 units in production. So you could easily collect those 27 units, and instead of throwing this half of an army at this base, you could throw an entire maxed out army to this base in 30 seconds from now, right? So I think in PvT, it's very easy to think, I gotta ship units. I have to keep the fight going and get a snowball effect. But a lot of times, it's better to just wait for all of our massive gateway count to get a big wave of units in before we actually engage. So I think that covers everything. So I will end it here.